There's a strange pride in saying, "I'm so busy." As if depletion is a badge of honor. As if running on empty means you're finally enough. Somewhere along the way, we started confusing exhaustion with virtue. We began measuring our worth by how much we could endure, and rest became something we had to earn. Productivity became the language of value. You are what you produce, what you complete, what you hustle for, and anything less feels like failure. Even on your day off, your mind races. You lie down, but guilt lies beside you. A soft whisper says, "You didn't do enough to deserve this peace." Where did we learn this? This belief that only the overworked are worthy of kindness? That rest is indulgence, not necessity? The world keeps spinning fast, and if you slow down, it feels like you'll fall behind. So you keep moving, even when your soul begs you to pause. We praise the grind. We celebrate the sleepless. We elevate burnout like it's a rite of passage. Sleep when you're dead, they joke. But you're tired now. You're quietly aching for something gentler. There's a constant pressure to prove you're not lazy, to always be useful, efficient on your game. But at what cost? You've become a stranger to your own stillness. The silence feels foreign, almost threatening. But maybe it's not silence that's scary. Maybe it's finally hearing your true self. We live in a system that rewards doing over being. Rest is often seen as the opposite of achievement. But maybe rest is the beginning of clarity. You're not a machine. You're not meant to run forever without pause. You're not built for constant performance. Yet somehow, you feel guilty for resting. As if caring for yourself is selfish. As if saying no is a betrayal of your potential. But what if the betrayal is in never slowing down? What if constant striving is what's keeping you from truly living? What if rest is not a reward, but a right? You were born worthy, not just when you're busy, not just when you're achieving, but always. The idea that rest must be earned is a lie, a story told by a culture afraid of softness. But softness isn't weakness, it's what makes you human. We've been taught to apologize for our limits, to feel shame when we need a break. But your limits are not flaws, they are wisdom. Nature doesn't bloom all year. The tree rests in winter. The ocean ebbs and flows. But humans, we push through our winters with a forced smile. We ignore the rhythms of our bodies. We're told we'll fall behind if we rest, that there's always someone hungrier, faster, more driven. But life isn't a race. It's a landscape to be explored slowly. Rest doesn't mean giving up, it means returning to yourself. The version of you that remembers how to breathe deeply, how to listen without rushing, how to simply be. What if rest is an act of rebellion, a quiet refusal to be consumed, a radical way of saying, "I am already enough"? The world doesn't slow down for you, but you can slow down in spite of it. You can choose gentleness over grind. The voice in your head may still whisper, "You haven't done enough." But another voice, quieter, steadier, says, "You are enough." Even here, listen for that one. Rest isn't the absence of ambition. It's the foundation of intention. When you rest, you return to what truly matters. So many people are tired, not because they're weak, but because they've been strong for too long, carrying invisible burdens, smiling through fatigue. But you don't have to prove your worth through suffering. You don't need to collapse to be worthy of a pause. You're allowed to stop before you break. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the spreadsheet in your head. Let go of the belief that your value is conditional. You are not a project to fix. You are not an engine to optimize. You are a living, breathing, feeling human being. And you deserve care. Not because you earned it, but because you exist. Imagine a world where rest is sacred, where stillness is respected, where slowness is not shameful, but beautiful. Maybe it starts with you, choosing to pause without apology, because you are already enough, even when you're still. Somewhere along the way, rest became a reward instead of a right. We began to believe that unless we are exhausted, we haven't done enough to deserve peace. But where did this belief come from? It likely wasn't born in you, it was taught. Whispered by culture, reinforced by school, celebrated in hustle. Rest was framed as something lazy people do, not something wise people need. We've been conditioned to admire the burned out, to cheer for those who keep going, even when they're clearly unraveling, to envy the person who's always busy, as if their worth rises with their schedule. So we learn to keep moving. We learn to ignore the signals. We override the need to pause because pausing feels like failure. But the body remembers. The mind grows weary, and the soul begins to dim in the shadows of overachievement. Exhaustion becomes our identity. Being tired becomes a badge. We say we're fine, but fine has become a synonym for depleted. You might feel guilty taking a break, as if the world will fall apart if you stop, as if your worth will collapse without constant proving. But what if rest is not a weakness, but a form of intelligence? What if stillness is not indulgence, but intuition? What if your body knows something society forgot? Animals rest when they are tired. Trees enter dormancy without shame. Tide retreats and returns without apology. But we resist the ebb. We're afraid of the quiet. We think slowing down will make us invisible. Maybe you learned that being productive makes you lovable, that being busy makes you safe. That success will silence your self-doubt. But no achievement will fill a soul that's been starved of kindness. No deadline met will make up for a life unlived. No to-do list will hold you at night. You are not a machine. We're not born to be optimized. You are not here to be efficient. You are here to be human. Humanity is messy, slow, emotional, irrational, beautiful, and it cannot flourish in a cage of constant output. There is a quiet power in saying, I've done enough for today. There is strength in soft boundaries. There is rebellion in rest. Rest is not quitting, it is preparing. It is choosing sustainability over sprinting into burnout. If you keep pushing without pause, something will eventually break. And too often that something is you. Your body will protest. Your mind will fog. Your spirit will sag. You don't need to hit a wall to deserve a moment of calm. You don't need to collapse to justify care. You don't need to prove your exhaustion to be allowed peace. If a friend told you they were tired, would you tell them to keep going? Or would you offer them tea, a blanket, a moment? Offer yourself the same compassion. You are not failing by resting. You are remembering what it means to be a living thing, not a doing thing. Capitalism taught us we are what we produce. But your worth is not a transaction. You are not a spreadsheet. You are stardust and story. You are breath and pulse, or enough, even when you do nothing at all. Productivity is not the measure of your humanity. It is merely a tool, not a truth. It can serve you, but it must not define you. So pause, not because you've earned it, but because you exist, because you have a body that aches and a soul that longs. You don't need to ask permission to rest. You are already allowed. You are already worthy. Even if the laundry isn't done, even if the inbox is full, even if someone else is working while you are not. Life isn't a contest. Resting does not put you behind. It puts you back in touch with yourself. You don't need to hustle your way to peace. Peace is not at the finish line. It is in the small pauses you give yourself now. The world may not applaud your rest, but your body will. Your spirit will. Let your rest be quiet and unapologetic. Let it be slow, simple, and sacred. Let it be a return to your truest self. Because the real you isn't tired from laziness. The real you is tired from surviving. And that version of you is already enough. You do not need to collapse to justify care. You do not need to bleed yourself dry to matter. You are not an endless source of output. You're a human being. Being is enough. And rest is a radical act of remembering that. The world rewards those who go faster, louder, and longer. But you were not born to be a machine in an assembly line. You were born with breath, softness, and need. Still, we measure ourselves by how much we've done in a day, not by how we've felt or what we've noticed, not by the way we showed up quietly for ourselves. There's a voice that whispers you haven't done enough. Even on the days you've moved mountains, that voice is not truth. It's training. Training passed down through generations of survival. Generations who worked until their bodies gave out. Rest, to them, was a luxury, not a right. Oh. But we live in a different world now. It's one that still clings to old beliefs, even when they harm us. One that says rest must be justified. You don't need to justify your breath. You don't need to prove your worth by what you accomplish. You are not a spreadsheet. You are not a deadline. Even trees know when to stop growing. Even the ocean rests between tides. You too have rhythms worth honoring. The fear of slowing down is often the fear of being forgotten, the fear of falling behind. But what if the race was never real? What if everyone's pace was always meant to be different? What if your gentleness was your strength, not your flaw? What if you've been enough all along? Slowing down isn't giving up. It's returning to something honest, something human. Rest isn't laziness. It's maintenance, a necessary act of care. It's like eating or sleeping. You don't scold a candle for burning out. You simply relight it gently. With care, not criticism. That's what rest is. A relighting of your inner light. Pause, so your flame doesn't go out completely. A soft yes to yourself. Pressure to do more never ends. That's why your boundaries must begin. Begin with small no-s, quiet refusals. No, I can't take that call today. No, I won't push through this headache. No, I won't feel guilty for sitting down. These are radical acts in a world that never stops. Acts of rebellion rooted in self-respect. Rest becomes your quiet revolution. The more you honor your need for stillness, the more you reclaim your right to be human. Not a product, not a brand, just you. You were not created to earn your rest. You were created with needs that are not flaws. You were created with limits, and that is beautiful. Society loves the limitless. But even the stars have lifespans. Even the sun sets. You are allowed to power down. You're allowed to rest before you break. You are allowed to feel tired without apologizing. We live in a culture that praises overwork. Burnout is worn like a badge of honor. But what if we praised balance instead? What if we celebrated people for taking breaks? For knowing their limits? For protecting their peace? You can start that celebration with yourself by noticing when you need gentleness, by giving it without delay. The people who truly love you won't love you less when you rest. They won't think you're failing. They'll be relieved that you're caring for yourself. And the ones who don't understand, they're often struggling with their own fears. Their discomfort with your rest says more about them. You can be kind without being available 24/7. You can be generous and still take time for yourself. You don't need to break yourself to be good. The guilt you feel isn't a sign you're wrong. It's a sign you're unlearning something old, something that no longer serves you. Sit with the discomfort. Let it pass through without judgment. You're not wrong for choosing ease, you're just not used to it yet. Rest can feel unnatural when exhaustion is normalized. But over time, it becomes sacred. You begin to see it not as a reward, but as a necessity. As something you always deserved. You don't need to earn your breath. You don't need to earn the right to pause. You are already enough, as you are right now. Let that truth land. Let it settle into your bones. You don't owe the world your exhaustion. You owe yourself gentleness. You owe yourself peace. And you are allowed to rest, simply because you're alive. Some people rest only when they've collapsed, not out of choice, but because their body forced it. That's not rest. That's recovery from burnout. True rest is chosen. It's not a reward, it's a rhythm, like breathing out after breathing in. But we've been taught to fear the quiet, to see rest as laziness. No. To think that slowing down means falling behind. Behind what? Who decided the pace? Why is busyness the badge of value? There is no finish line to life, no trophy for being the most exhausted, no applause for sacrificing yourself completely. Yet so many of us feel guilt when we stop. We check our phones even when lying in bed. We feel anxious when we aren't doing something. It's not productivity, that's nervous system fatigue. That's survival mode, dressed up as ambition. Your value is not tied to your output. You don't become more lovable the more you achieve. You're enough, even when you do nothing. But the world won't tell you that. Benefits from your burnout. The economy loves your self-neglect. And so, we learn to hustle, to wear dark circles as war paint, to boast about how little we've slept. But under all of that is someone tired, someone aching for permission to be still, someone who's forgotten how to just be. Rest isn't quitting. It's reconnecting with yourself, with your breath, with your life. You don't need to prove anything to earn stillness. You don't have to accomplish more to deserve peace. You don't need a reason to be gentle with yourself. Some days, the most productive thing you can do is nothing. To lie on the couch and let the world keep spinning. To remember, the world will not fall apart if you pause. That voice in your head saying you're being lazy, it's not your truth. It's a script you were handed, and scripts can be rewritten. You can choose silence over urgency, presence over perfection. You can unlearn the idea that rest must be earned. You can trust that who you are is already enough. You can redefine what a good day means. Maybe it's not about crossing things off a list. Maybe it's about how deeply you breathed, how softly you treated yourself. Maybe the day wasn't wasted just because you didn't produce. Maybe it was sacred because you remembered your humanity. Maybe that's the real productivity. Returning to yourself. We've made exhaustion a status symbol. But what if ease was the new aspiration? What if peace was your measure of success? You don't owe the world your constant motion. You don't owe anyone your depletion. You owe your self-care. And care isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it's canceling plans. Sometimes it's going to bed early. Sometimes it's saying no without guilt. Sometimes it's saying yes to nothing at all. Sometimes it's sitting with your coffee and watching it steam. There is strength in softness. There's power in pacing yourself. There is wisdom in letting go of the rush. It's okay if your dreams take time. It's okay if your life isn't a highlight reel. It's okay to go slow, because slow doesn't mean stuck. It means you're listening. It means you're choosing intention over impulse. The people who matter won't love you less for resting. And if they do, that's not love, that's expectation. Rest won't make you less worthy. It will help you remember your worth. Your body is not a machine. Your soul is not a to-do list. You were not born just to keep up. You were born to feel, to notice, to be. So slow down. Not because you're falling behind, but because you're catching up with yourself. And that, too, is progress. There is a life waiting for you on the other side of hurry. A life of presence, a life of peace. You don't need to earn that life. You just need to stop running from it and allow it to meet you in the stillness. Rest is not the enemy of growth. It's the soil where growth begins. And you, just as you are enough to begin again. There's a voice in your head that whispers, "Have you done enough today?" It waits until you lie down, till your body stops moving and silence begins. That's when it starts counting. Every unchecked box, every item you postponed, every task that could have made you more worthy, more admirable, more productive. This voice was not born with you. It was taught and rehearsed until it sounded like your own. You learned that resting is something you must deserve, that to stop moving is to lose value, that tiredness is a sign of purpose. But what if you are worthy, even when you do nothing? What if your worth is constant, like the sky, still there, even when covered in clouds? You don't ask a tree to produce leaves faster, or a bird to sing all day. You understand that nature has rhythm. Rest is not a reward. It is a necessity. It's part of the cycle, not a failure of it. Think of the tide. It comes in, then it recedes. That's how it breathes. That's how it survives. You too are made of rhythms. You are not a machine. You are not meant to be always on. You are not designed for endless doing. You were built to feel, to pause, to breathe, to be. The world tells you to maximize every minute, but your heart begs for stillness. It doesn't want more hours. It wants more presence. You are not lazy for needing a break. You're alive. And being alive requires softness. You've been taught that your value lies in how much you give. But you are not a resource. You are not a project to be managed. You're someone's favorite laugh, someone's safe place. You're a story unfolding, not a task list. The moments you feel most whole aren't when you're busiest. They are when you are most at peace, walking without purpose, sitting in the sun. And yet we feel guilty for these things, as if joy should be earned, as if existence must be justified. But existence in itself is enough. You don't need to win rest. You just need to return to it. What would it mean to rest without apology? To lie down without an excuse? To nap and not feel bad about it? The fear isn't that you'll fall behind. It's that you'll no longer feel important. But importance isn't based on exhaustion. You don't have to prove your goodness with burnout. You don't have to sacrifice your body to feel seen. That's not love. Okay, that's performance. True rest is radical because it refuses to play the game. It says, "I am worthy even now. Even when the dishes are undone. Even when I cancel plans. Even when I'm not productive. Rest is not selfish. It is sacred. And it teaches you to come home to yourself. The quietest parts of you deserve time too. The inner child, the unspoken grief, the small joys that get buried beneath deadlines. What would it feel like to stop measuring your days by what you accomplished? What if enough was not tied to your output? What if you were enough, always? You don't have to become anyone else. You don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to keep proving your worth. Worth doesn't live in your calendar. It lives in your being. It lives in your heartbeat, your breath, your presence. Rest is not a pause in life. It is part of it. It's the soil where clarity grows. It's the moment your soul takes off its armor. So if you are tired, rest. If you are lost, rest. If you are unsure, rest. You don't need permission. You don't need a reason. You don't need to earn it. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply human. And being human is enough. Even when you're quiet, even when you're still. There is a quiet rebellion in choosing rest over rush. A soft resistance in saying, I don't need to prove anything today. It feels radical because it is. Rest is not lazy. It is not selfish. It is not indulgent. It is simply human. Your body needs it. Your spirit craves it. But the world often makes you feel guilty for pausing. It's like you must first collapse before rest is justified. Like burnout is a badge of honor. But is that the life you want? One where your value is measured in broken sleep and unread emails? One where peace is always postponed? You don't need to arrive at exhaustion to earn permission to slow down. You don't need to break to be worthy of repair. You can rest simply because you're alive. We've been sold a strange equation. Effort equals value. Busyness equals importance. But your worth is not a productivity report. It is not a checkbox. It is not the number of hours you hustle. You are not a machine. You are not a brand. You are not a constant project in need of fixing. You are breath and softness. You are stillness and slow mornings. You are allowed to just be. Sometimes doing nothing is doing something. It is listening. It is healing. It is a form of care that often goes unseen, but you feel it in your bones. The relief, the permission, the gentleness. Rest doesn't always look like a nap. Sometimes it looks like watering your plant slowly or cooking with no rush. Sometimes it's letting yourself walk without headphones, or staring out the window for no reason, or breathing like the day isn't chasing you. The world may not understand. It might ask, what are you even doing? But you don't owe it an answer, because your worth is not up for debate. It is not negotiable. It is not earned through sacrifice. You are always enough, even before you achieved anything, even before you improved. Imagine a life where rest is not reward but rhythm. A life that flows instead of forces. A life that honors your seasons. Some days will be full of energy. Others will ask for slowness. Both are sacred. You don't need to push through every low. You don't need to fight every still moment. You don't need to apologize for your limits. Limits are not flaws. They're boundaries. They are wisdom in disguise. Even the sun rests. Even the tides pull back. Even the moon disappears sometimes. You are nature too. You are not separate from the rhythm of rest. You belong to it. Rest brings you back to yourself. To the parts of you that are quiet and kind. To the voice inside that says, you're okay. That voice gets drowned out in the noise of do more. But it returns when you soften. When you stop running. When you lay down without shame. When you close your eyes not in defeat, but in trust. When you remember you were never behind. Maybe the real progress is presence. Maybe the real growth is gentleness. Maybe the bravest thing is rest. It's the kind that says, I no longer need to suffer to belong. The kind that says, I am not less for pausing. The kind that says, I am enough as I am. Today, let that be your practice. Not more doing, but more being. Rest without guilt. Breathe without rushing. Exist without earning. Let yourself be ordinary. Let yourself be quiet. Let yourself be loved without effort. You don't need to be exhausted to be respected. You don't need to prove your right to rest. You don't need to do more to be more. You are enough. Even now. Especially now. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.